the one thing that you've already expressed is communication, right? And creating a village, right? And being a part of a village. So what I was going to ask, based on your comment that you just made now, is because we are, most people in our community is socialized in this Western philosophy, right? Where I can remember going to college and my roommate was from Long Island. Her father was like the CEO of Lancome or something. And she said she's going home with her family, and it was her mother, her brother, and her father. And so I said, that's not your family. And I said, well, where are your cousins? She said, they're with their families. And I had never heard that. Like, I thought it was like my mind was like, what, you know? And so I said that to say, in these days, a lot of people are encapsulating themselves with only their households. A lot of that has to do with pandemic and the fallout from that. So what are your suggestions with all of the things that has kind of taken away that village, you know, from us? How can we get back to that?
I think the only way to get back is begin to take on this battle. Look, there's two levels to this fight. One is within the culture itself, learning to love one another and really engage, and then in the greater culture. And what do I mean by that? My darling sister down here told you about her mother. She can't leave her behind. She's part of the family. She also mentioned about the various shades we exist in. And for a long time, a lot of time we don't want to say it, we play into that light skin, dark skin, talk good, don't talk good. And we perpetuate the problem, because our young folks here. But our greatest moment right now is what we see with young people on the campuses. The diverse engagement. Many folks looking on, glad, but we should be doing the same thing. They're teaching us how we should be operating in a human love, human rights mode. Not just your color. Look, every ethnicity has their huddle. Polish, Irish, all of them have their little huddles. We can do that, but we also would reach for the higher goals about humanity. And if you think about that, you'll be better off. Because the bad in your life wasn't just done by somebody who didn't look like you. Yeah. The good in your life wasn't just done by somebody who looked like you. Let me end by saying this. And this is a Christian verse that talks about, it said Christ was teaching, healing, and preaching. And someone said, here come your mother and brother. And he said, who is my mother and brother except those who do the will of my Father in heaven? Well, I will argue that he gave a new definition of what is family and what is relationship. See, we talk about blood, our blood. You know, like, yeah, that's my blood. Some of them, tell the truth, some of them is not the one hitting people in the head and snatching purses, not the greedy one. What he said is the one who's doing the good, which is what his Father does. When we look around, who's your father? Who's your sister? Who's your brother? The one that's doing the good work that you think that's going your way. So we challenge. We got this blood among us that we got to get together at home and abroad.
I think thank you for that. I think that's a really good point. I've worked with young people for a long time, and I know that when I worked in the high school, we would have conversations about difference, right? Particularly in preparing young people for college, because they don't know who their roommate would be. You know, there's a lot of different things that happen in roommate dynamics when you are put in a space with another culture that you've never experienced. And so a lot of the kids always say they don't. So I've had a lot of kids tell me that they don't feel like the race is not an issue because the people they've always had issues with have looked like them, right? So it's like, why are we talking about those people when I'm worried about this person that looks just like me and on my way home from school, right? So you're right in that, you know, the definition of family and community has to be broader than just the way that we look or blood. I want to direct the next question to.
I was going to say something.
Okay. Absolutely.
I think it's as a result of an internalized oppression, right? So we have bought into the self-hate, right? Anything but the skin that I was born with. I recall personally in Ghana, and Ras Jomo, you were talking about what kind of education were we given in the colonial context, right? So I was taught to write to my pen pals who were in the global north, to write that I am fair in color and I have light brown eyes. So this anti-blackness, right? I was taught to ingest that. And so I believe in order for us to do anything, it has to actually begin with the self. We need to do some self-excavation, deep self-excavation. And for me, it took me around different continents to actually begin doing this work.
So I appreciate you saying that. And actually, I was going to bring the next question to you, Dr. Bear. And so we are right where we're supposed to be. I appreciate you for saying that, because I do think sometimes when we build up ourselves, or, we have this whole thing of like, who she thinks she is, right? You think you all of that. You think you're smart. Are you trying to be smart? And all of those like sayings that don't really make sense on their face, right? I remember my sister saying to me once, like, if you don't think you all that, who will? Like, who's the person that's supposed to think that you're all of that, right? And so, like, so building up young people, showing them how to edify themselves, would prevent them from then 20, 30 years later having to completely dismantle and then rebuild up their self-awareness. The question I had for you is, how can we leverage our strengths, our resources collectively, to address pressing issues like inequalities, education, healthcare, like the things that are impacting our community?
So I truly believe that we have what it takes. We are all we have, and we are all we need. Because we actually were hewn, the mitochondrial Eve, she was the mother of mankind. She was actually found in the Rift Valley of modern-day Ethiopia. Someone asked me the other day, do you ever feel like a woman instead of a black woman? And it was powerful. And it took me a minute. I said, you know what? Let me percolate in that a little bit. I am proud to be a black woman because the mother of mankind was a black woman. Ashe on that. She is the mother of mankind. So why wouldn't I want to be a black woman? And yes, I went through the colonial system in Ghana. I was 13 years old. I was sitting in classroom and being taught British history instead of my history. And this was what the colonial system did, right, to me. But now I know better. So my question to you all is, why are we waiting for the government to create spaces and platforms for us to teach our children about our history? Jews don't do that. I'm sorry, you work with the Jewish Federation, correct? Family services. They sent their kids to Jewish schools. Chinese. They learn their language and their culture. And I'm not saying for us to build a school, but we can actually start small. A community hub, maybe in my house. All of you, come to my house. I'll feed you, and we can talk. We can have a conversation. How many of us here need another backpack for our children? How many of you need hand sanitizers?
Red folders.
Somebody gonna say ouch.
These are all distractions
Yes, yeah.
in the name of helping the community. Really? Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against health fairs. I don't. If it's going to be holistic, if we are going to get to the root of the causes of the unhealthy foods that is being pumped into the system with a whole bunch of sugar that's keeping our kids on Ritalin. And then these same systems are in disguise. They create the problem and then they become the saviors. And I'm complete.
Wow. That was a mouthful. I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna put a pin right here. I'm gonna let you. Your question.
Thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm representing the Nigerian community here in Buffalo. I would have been so mad with myself if I've not made it to the event today, because there's a lot to learn from here. And one of the things I feel we should do to build a community, to bring us together, is mentorship. When I came here, 2019, I came straight to ECC, and 2020, COVID came, and I was finding it difficult going through online classes because I never went through online classes back home. But a gentleman, an African American who came for a job fair in my school, picked an interest in very few of us and continued to mentor us. The job I'm doing today, I never learned about it from home, but because of his mentorship, I got out of associate degree straight to six-figure job before even moving on to my bachelor's degree at Bar State. So power of mentorship, it's something that will bring the kids, the community together.
True.
I deliberately pick up this ticket from my cars because this ticket for financial events coming up, a lot of people do not know about them. A lot of free finances are on the street of America that you can grab and invest in your businesses, but a lot of us don't know about them. But because of mentorship, somebody sat me down, somebody sat a lot of us down, mentored us. Some of us have some pushback and we're like, same story of money and all of that. But if you don't take risk, you are already a risk to yourself. Please, I would always say, let us imbibe the spirit of mentorship to get these young ones together.
I would agree. Mentorship is important. Any work being done is similar to being like a mentorship kind of approach. What we need to do is measure those who claim to be doing it to see what they done.
Well,
That's what we haven't got, the evidence. We got everybody saying they're doing something. But what's the quality of it? Who's doing the measurement? Who's checking?
and what are the outcomes? I want you, your hand was up for a while, so I wanted to get your questions, and I'm gonna finish a few of the panel discussions, and then we'll do a poll.
Okay, thank you. I'm baffled somewhat here, listening to the discussion today. Of course, Jim, I'm sure you're gonna pray for me this evening. You always do, every time, every night. Jomo, I've been knowing you for quite some time. I didn't realize until a couple months ago that there was a large population of Africans on the west side of Buffalo. I was doing some campaigning And Jomo, I had Marlo right with me. We Pan-African. We always Pan-African. And we have traveled this world. And I was sharing with one of the gentlemen from Somalia my platform in terms of what I was interested in doing. And he gave me 2 minutes to listen to me, and then I explained to him that, you know, I'm African American and African, and he spent 35 minutes explaining to me that I was not African. My question is, what do we have in common other than pigmentation? And as we talk about talking with each other and things of that nature, I think that's nice. But how do you talk to people who've been indoctrinated into not trusting each other?
The same way we have discussion with our aunt and uncle who won't stop drinking alcohol, and they lost their job, their house, their car, their family, and they won't stop drinking. This is a spiritual battle that we under. And with all this logical stuff we talking about, the reason I started off with the drum is because I played a song that's called Djembe out of the Malian Empire, not the country of Mali. When we were looking at that 10 map, much of that was the Malian Empire. That's about 15 different countries right now. And in those areas, there's large cultural practices that we had BC. We're attacking all of these problems from a Western culture and a Western education. That's why it's a hell of a get out of us. We're using the wrong materials to get out of a pre-designed game that somebody already set the beginning and the end. We're gonna have to go to a higher level, and it's gonna be bigger than religion, because it's enough Christianity that you can change them every day almost like undergarments. Okay? It's gonna be bigger than even what we consider religion. It's gonna have to go back into our lifestyle, which is culture. And even our religions come from cultures of the same people who miseducated, who mistrained, misaligned, and threw us off. And this is not a Buffalo, a East Side, a New York State, a Mason-Dixon line, North or South. We just took a glance at BC, and you can pick any one of them you want. We're dealing with some ancient spiritual energies that have manifested in all of us. One, to make people think that they're superior, and two, to make others believe that they're inferior. And then the subcontext is that those who feel inferior because they're in close proximity, well, that's where most of the crime is committed, because you commit violence and you violate people who are closer to you. So the answer to the question is that it's going to be a lot of loving and understanding. We got to have time to talk, because apparently that person don't know the history of these BCs. They don't realize who we were before captivity. So it's hard to talk to somebody about something they don't know. That's where going back to meeting them where they are. After you listen for 3 or 4 minutes, you're like, wait a minute, this brother really don't know what happened to us. And I think that's what the first question was.
Yeah.
We all don't know what happened to us.
I think to the larger scape of the conversation today has been separation, right? And how the power of divisiveness and how that's been a tool used against the diaspora for a very, very long time. I mean, very long time seems like a lack of the right vernacular to even describe how long it's been entrenched into our existence. And so I think that it sounds like the one thing I'm hearing is that collaboration, working together, having conversations, reverting back, all those things that seem simple is actually acts of resistance. It's actually rebellion against what it seems like is the status quo. I want to get to Mrs. Bailey. Oh, I was actually coming to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so please share what you want to share first.
So there's a lot of answers to your question. I'm going to attempt one. Thank you for your answer as well. So you asked, what do African Americans and Africans have in common? Ancestors. We share ancestors. So whether it be that we are first generation African American, I've called myself this, nobody has told me that that's what I am, but that's what I am. I'm a first generation African American. So whether you're first generation, third, fourth, or fifth, we have the same ancestors. That's one. Number two, Forgive that man because he didn't know what he was talking about. He has no right to tell you what you are. You know that. So clearly he has no idea what he's talking about. So we can listen, but that doesn't mean we have to take it in. And clearly that man needs some education as well. So.
And so the question actually, I mean, is how do you feel we should leverage our strengths, our resources, to overcome some of the pressing issues like ignorance in the community, like inequities in health, education, all of the things that are plaguing our people?
That's a huge question.
So answer that right now. No, I'm just
Yeah, so so everything that everybody has said, that's number one. I love that you opened up your house. I think we should jump on that. That's number two. I like to do lists if you don't know. 1, 2, 3. And number 3, and this is all related, is what comes first, right? You've heard this colloquialism, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. What comes first? Vulnerability or education and an ability to be vulnerable? Let me say that again. What comes first? Your desire to be vulnerable in your lived experience, does that come first? Or does listening and really taking in somebody else's vulnerability to be willing to describe their lived experience and then you open up? It's gonna be different for everybody. But if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to really listen, whether you agree or not, then something's gonna open up in you. So whether you're African or African American, yes, we know stereotypically there are some Africans, not all, like my father, for example, who walk around and act like they're better than, everybody else. Yes, there are. But that's not every African, just like there's African Americans that do that. So we need to be open to knowing that a stereotypical person is not every person. And so we have to be willing to accept people as individuals, and then look at the collective experience. What do we have in common? Ancestors. Why does that matter? Because what you were saying, BC, all the BCs, before captivity, before colonialism, all of that matters. So, yeah, conversation, vulnerability, connection, willingness to listen.
That's it.
Thank you.
And come to my house for all of that.
And so be careful, because I have a couple of kids that will come. They will be answered, Mr. Anderson, when we get to the Q&A piece. I'm coming to you. But I wanted to circle back to, I don't want to mispronounce Bishu Bahati. Bishu, okay. What steps do you think we can take to ensure that collaborations are impactful and not just for the short term, but the long term?
I would say continue listening to one another. And part of listening is also to help us get to who's ready to engage. Because not everybody will engage at the time that we want them to. And so when we are listening and when we are engaging with people, we are assessing who's ready to go on with us and to do the educating, but also to bring other people on from both sides.
Thank you for that. I know that this is there are a lot of ideas, there are a lot of thoughts. So who would like to share their thoughts on the conversation? Can you stand too? I'm sorry.
Sure, no, it's okay. I thought about it. I felt like I might be making too much of a statement. Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Never too much.
Well, I appreciate that. I know that there was a question that was posed that may have been rhetorical, but I do feel like this is a thing that's been on my mind. Like, why are we waiting for the system to do the work that we need to do in order to educate our people? And honestly, the answer is people are afraid. They are afraid of the kids who they may want to talk to and see, okay, you're doing A, B, and C, we gotta correct you, but what if that kid shoots me? Like, that's a very real possibility. Like, I saw a video of like a 10-year-old just trying to flirt with an adult woman, and he pulled out a gun like, hey, look at what I got. Like, these are real things that we have to deal with. And a lot of people are also afraid of being black. They are afraid of our history. They used to eat us. Like, they used to skin us and use our skin as a leather. There is a lot of negative and dark and painful experiences that are laced within the black DNA. And a lot of people don't want to interact with that. but that doesn't mean that it goes away. We can't just every few decades decide, you know what, this is what blackness really is. We didn't come here on slave ships. When did you see a slave ship? We're not African, we're not this, we're that. Like, there's so many times that people want to remove themselves from blackness because of the fear of being seen as inferior. We aren't inferior, we are resilient. We are moving past, we are pushing. And so I think that we need to really acknowledge the pain and the beauty of our people. Yes, specifically through art, specifically through communication, specifically through moments like this. Because if we don't, we will allow other people to write our stories, and then at that point we will really die. We will really cease to exist. So the power is in all of our hands to be able to reach out and maybe give a little message. Maybe put on an event that's like, this is a more professional setting, so these are the conversations that we need to have. But then also when we go home, we need to have them other conversations like, yo, listen, when it really hits the fan, what are we gonna do? A lot of people talk about revolution. How many people know how to grow food?
It's happening now.
How many people know how to protect themselves? How many people know how to do anything aside from just watch TV and cower in fear the way that we are taught how to do? You know? So I don't have a question. I really just have a comment, an answer.
Can I say something to that, to your points that are all very valid? So change has always happened by young people historically, period. Civil rights era was not a bunch of people in their 70s marching to make these things happen. Every time rebellions, even all the rebellions that happened during the slave periods of times that have happened historically, have not been the older people on the plantations and such, right? And so we know that they say, what is it, youth is wasted on the young, right? Because the young people are energetically able to do the things that people who have come before them may be fearful, but also may be tired. Right, because that's a real thing. We have to honor everyone's experience, because I, for one, as a person who is relatively young, I think I'm relatively young, the kids say otherwise. You're a baby, I know. It's too over here, right? And so I feel like we do get tired. We have a lot of things that we are fighting. Someone made the comment like, do you ever feel like you can just be a woman? What privilege it would be to say, I'm a woman, as opposed to a black woman, because that's a different context. That's a whole different context. The term womanist had to be created because feminism only dealt with that piece of who we are. And so we are all in this space intersectionally, right? And we come with all of the things that we are. And so I think we have to also honor that some of us, at different points, highs and lows, may be more willing and have more energy to do the things. And so that's why the community is so important, because we can't all be present with the fire that you present with at all times. And so that's why it's so beautiful to be in a space where you have all of it, right?
Yes, we need a generational community.
You can harness that, because this is what I mean. This is like in a classroom. When you go into a group, everybody ain't ready. They can be sitting like they ready, but no, you got to break through to get through to them, and we all know that. And so in moments like this is the first timer. We need to have these kind of fiery, when I say fiery, beautiful fire of spirit just bursting. Questions that ache. You don't have to say it aching, but we know it ache. Questions and thoughts that somebody else got, not just you. But that happens in the first session. That sets up the groove for why you gotta come back. This is not entertainment. This is about entertainment. Being here today is about taking a new course that we haven't been on. Where have you been where there's a discussion like this that has happened? Nowhere. And in here, we got some who are ready to step. They got some ideas. We get the step people huddled up. We got some who want to learn a little bit more about what to do. Well, let me tell you something. We can all start measuring something. We talked about illiteracy, right? And you mentioned about older people. Remember I told you back in the day, we were ignorant. We didn't know some things. Young folks today get the same thing adults get. So that's why they can pop on some stuff like, what? They got access to it. But they don't control the narrative. We do. We build community. We need to ensure that the institutions that say, oh yeah, this is a place where the kids can come to hang out, not just hang out, but to get lifted up. But we got to measure a lot of places that exist, because you go in some communities and say, oh, I see you got a center, and the resident will tell you, oh, they don't do nothing. Don't we know that about a lot of places in our community that claim to work with kids?
And I want to thank you too for sharing that, because I think you've made so many really good points. Were there any other hands? I felt like it was, okay, right here.
Yes. So I just want to say that, like, you know, I'm a Ghanaian. I'm a Ghanaian married to an African American, and we talk about this type of issues all the time. And I work in the healthcare field, and I see, like, we have 4 kids, and I see a lot of this type of issue. We can work on it by bringing the family units together. We have to start protecting our Black men, and the Black men has to start protecting the Black women. The society, the Western society is breaking us apart. They use words like Black men, there are no Black men in the family, Black men are this and that, and we go along with that. The Black men I know, they are strong men, they are respectable, and we have to see that. The Black women I know, they are strong women, and we cannot let this society keep breaking us apart by using certain words and we go along with it. We have to see our Black men, and they have to see us. I talk to my daughters, they are in their 20s, and sometimes they get upset because they saw on the internet when Black men go for white girls, and then they start talking about negative things about Black women just to justify why they are going for white women. So we Black people have to come together, because if we come together, that is their fear. They cannot hurt us if we stick together. And so that's what I have to say, is that we stick together, because me and my daughters and my son, you cannot say anything negative about Black men in my household, even if it's R. Kelly or P. Diddy, because they do not say, like the white man who talks negative and who talks about disrespecting women is the president, okay? But they let us tear each other down just so that they get away with treating us the way they treat us. We have to stick together and protect our family. And when we do that, we will survive.
I'm gonna take the mic this time.
And stand.
And stand.
You're your chair.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what these two beautiful queens said. So a little bit about me. Sorry, I talk very loud. A little bit about me. My actual background, I was raised in the Nation of Islam. So my introduction to Blackness is in a very, very different mindset. You know, one running joke in my friend group is the fact that I've never seen Harry Potter, but by the age of 9, I knew all of Roots from front to back. Even when it comes to the diaspora, nobody can tell me anything about the diaspora that is negative that I will not still defend. I know people from Trinidad and Tobago. I know people from Ghana. I know people from the Americas. I know even Black Canadians that are part of the Nation of Islam. Do I practice it now? No. But the one thing that I'm very grateful of, that my parents instilled in me, that I realized it was so important to know, is that when you get older, yeah, when you're young, you do, you know, say your little dumb things. We've all done it, right? But when you get older, your Blackness, people try to tell you about who you are. And you can't tell me about my history, especially, especially to my African Americans in here. Your ancestors were never docile. Look up the German Coast Uprising. Look up the Gullah Geechee. I am Seminole. At the end of the day, when it comes to us, these kids, had my parents never instilled that into me, I do agree that as a young age, as a young youth, we have to do better. Whether if you are 20, whether if you are 30, 40, I always said it even as an actress. I said the minute you decide to open your mouth and present yourself in front of people, you have chosen to be an influence. And I hate that Black entertainers today, as a Black entertainer, I hate that Black entertainers today say, well, raise your kids. I'm not in charge of raising your kids. Yes, you are. I grew up on Martin. Yes, you are. Because at the end of the day, we're mimicking you and we're following you. So anybody out there, please know, whether if you have a kid, whether if you have a cousin, anybody, they're watching you. Somebody finds you an influence. Our cost, me as a Black entertainer, I used to have his name was Aaron Moss. He went to Yale, I'll always give him his credits. He used to say, us as Black entertainers, we don't get to be princesses and all of these things and then it not be tied to us. Whenever we do anything, and I'm just gonna say this about anything, our cost is personal. It's gonna always be personal. So to all of my beautiful Black children in here, I know I actually wanted to pick that baby up and sing a lullaby to him. Because he's just so sweet. Yes. But to all of my Black children in here, please know that you are loved. You are kings and queens in the making. And you even being here and your elders bringing you here, you don't even know how sweet your Blackness is about to get. You are that sweet berry. And I hope that sticks later on, but okay, I'm done, y'all.
Y'all better build each other up. Any other questions? We have we're at the 2-minute warning.
Good morning.
Hey.
My apologies for running late, I'm only one person. I am listening today. I'm Sharon Belton-Cotman, board president of the Schools Emeritus and currently the Ferry School District representative, and I am winding up my tenure this year as a school board member, but never as an advocate for children. With that said, there are institutions that exist, particularly the Buffalo Public Schools, that exist, and that we as a community have not taken the initiative to take control over what's going on in our communities. So if you want to talk about where you start with the people who are educating your children. You start with making sure that if you have a desire, I'm an artist, I sing, I dance, or I want children to play musical instruments, or I'm not pleased with how the children who are the first generation L's, English learning, language learning children are, you can form a parent group. You can get together and organize. When Adrian Benton came to me about 7 years ago and said, Sharon, this is the third generation that we have not had children who can speak, who have taken musical instruments. We have lost 3 generations. That ignited a fire in me. But guess what? We are not at the point where we are at full band. We are at string. So we need a parent group to do music and art. And you get parents that are like you, and you guys will unite, and you will come and you will be part of the parent congress. You will have a say in what's happening. If you don't like what's being taught in the schools, or if you're from another nationality or whatever, we have groups that are currently parent congress, but I personally think they're stagnated and they need some breath. Okay, and that's how I feel about it. There's a spirit of Sankofa in here today. There's no doubt about it. I learned about the Sankofa bird in my early 20s and have never forgotten that and continue to give. The Sankofa bird, okay, for those of you who don't know, it's a mythical spiritual bird. Comes from out of Ghana, okay? And basically, we'll say the bird, because I happen to think she's a woman, but that's my concept of it. You could be a man and do it too. But the bird travels with an egg, a seed, a dream in its mouth. Okay, looking where it came from, but steady moving forward. Never forgetting the ancestry. Never forgetting what people have done in order to get you there, and never leaving anyone else behind. Okay, and when we get that spirit, when we start taking ownership of our schools, okay, I'm so sick and tired of hearing we need mentorship. What we really need is adults owning their own mess, and we need to start teaching the adults so that they can mentor their own children. No disrespect to that brother, because I believe in mentorship. I had a white female out of Lancaster who mentored me into the mortgage banking industry. But and still very few African Americans that are doing that. And she made sure I prospered. So I believe in mentorship. But what I'm saying is that we talk about getting to the kids, we got to get to the adults. Because those that are smoking weed over our kids and sitting them in the school they're acting like the 6 or the 7 Snow White dwarf, hungry, sleepy, angry, okay? All because you decided to smoke over your kid. You don't even understand what you're doing to your kid's mind. We need somebody to educate a group in our school district to educate parents on why they should not be doing that. Their minds aren't even formed. They scared the hell out of us when we went to school about messing with marijuana. Because they told the guys your private body parts won't grow, the girls, all this stuff, your mom, so we were scared. And we did not mess with weed until we got to college. That's all. I'm trying to act like I'm no man. Anyway, I say that, I encourage you to think about in your mindset, what do you want? We have one group that's multicultural. Maybe they're not the one for you. Maybe you need to create your own. But I really would like to see this year a group of parents who are dealing with musical instruments, a group of parents who are focused in on sports. Our kids get treated bad on a regular basis by Section 6 in New York State High School Athletic Association, and I'm fighting on a statewide level. I would like to see a group of whatever you feel is important that you're going to help lift Buffalo Public Schools up form. And I'm here to help you, and once I leave the board, trust me, they think that they're getting rid of me. They're getting a whole new person with a hat on backwards, and they hope I don't come back. But our new superintendent gets it, and you should be encouraged.
Could you
by
tell
that.
us where the new superintendent is from as we start talking about African diaspora, please?
Our new superintendent is by way of the Congo. Okay, don't get it twisted. And I said yesterday, the ancestors have given us a gift because he does not know anyone here, so he's not connected, and he got everything in front of him, and he sat up there the other day and said, I know how to do it, and I intend to get it done.
That's right.
And then he said that there's 10% of the people you can't do anything with, they're not gonna listen. And then we're talking in an administrative retreat, and then he said in his nice little dialect, and I hope you're not one of them. Don't get it twisted, we're gonna support him.
Thank you so much.
Parent groups.
We're gonna, thank you so much for your comments and for, sharing all of everyone here. And just because we are, at time and we're wrapping up, we, don't want the conversation to end. And so please feel free to still continue this conversation. And it's really important that we do so. I just want to thank all of the panelists. I want to thank all of the participants from the audience that came, and that little baby. I thank you for your patience with all of us. And so we really are grateful for this. One thing I want to say as we move on, it feels like it doesn't feel heavy. So I don't know if anyone feels like they're burdened or they feel heaviness in their spirit, but just know that going back to the onset, when I first began talking, the present moment, being able to anchor yourself to this moment in this time and reminding yourself of how safe that you are ways to really support wellness as when you're dealing with things that can be so heavy. Also to Mrs. Belton-Cotton's point about starting with ourselves, right? We talked a lot about, we have to help the children, but the reality is the children hear you. So when you are in the car, driving the car, and you look up in the mirror and you say, oh, I look a mess, right? You're a baby that thinks that you are the second coming of Jesus, right? You are the picture of beauty, have heard you tear yourself down. So we have to be aware of how we speak around young people that's around us about ourselves. You know, you may call yourself fat, you may call yourself whatever you're doing, and not even thinking that someone else, right, that's developing their own personal image, and looks just like you, and values everything that you do, hear you, right? So we have to be really, really careful about the words that we speak, right? Because that's where the life and death really, truly is and exists. So we have to be careful about those things and be intentional about our words, about our relationships, about our mentorship relationships and collaboration. Parent activism is something that I heard as a theme as well today. So thank you all for your passion, and let's continue the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Giselle. Panelists. Woo! I have to say, I had moments where those tears were coming, right? There was a heavy conversation, but very important discussion. And like I said when I opened, I feel like it's an onion. And we just peel back just one sliver of that onion, because there are layers and layers and layers to this that I encourage all of you to stay connected. So you will receive an email from International Child Advancement. We will send the deck that we shared earlier. And if you have a few moments, please scan the QR code. We'd love for you to complete the survey, provide your feedback, because again, this is the first of many conversations. We plan to bring you all, and hopefully you all come back again, and you'll bring your friends and your family members. But one thing for me, and I hope that this rings true for all of you, is that I hope you're walking away with something that you've learned. And by a show of hands, can I just see how many of you learned at least one new thing today? Wonderful, look at that, perfect. So whatever you learned, whatever you gleaned, pass that on, right? So that's important too. May we all become that mouthpiece to inform and educate others. And I just want to share one quick story before we walk out of here, my own personal experience. So years ago, I worked with this beautiful African-American woman, and there was this clashing that happened between us, and I couldn't understand. So I sat her down to try to understand, did I do something wrong? Can we talk about this? The misunderstanding came from believing that as an African or of African descent that we did not know what suffering was, since we did not go through slavery. And I took the time to explain to her colonization. That's why I'm so happy we talked about that today, and what happened to us in our own country, on our own soil, being killed and brutalized and all those experiences. And I could just see her eyes open up wide. And she thanked me at the end because she had no idea. So that knowledge is critical, and as the panelists shared today, it's going to be so important that we continue the conversation, that we're willing to be vulnerable, that we're willing to give others a space to be vulnerable, to be empathetic as people share their stories, and that we can all come together and continue to understand how can we move forward and unite and partner and collaborate for a stronger future. So again, thank you so much. Again, please scan the QR code. If you don't have time to do it now, we'll be emailing it with additional materials. So thank you, panelists. Thank you so much. And again, Giselle, thank you, and thank you for all of you for coming today.
Yeah,
Really
thank
appreciate it.
Every Sunday, 7 to 10 p.m. Every Sunday, 7 to 10 p.m. Power 96.5. We've been on Waffle for close to 20 years, talking about Black history and culture in the diaspora. So, avenues out here.